And welcome to Life Support Live, the weekly Star Trek show that helps you to boldly go in your own lives to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
As a famous starship captain once said, to which another famous starship captain also said, not in real time, but we just like to link them here together, wherever our mission takes us, we'll make sure to have a little fun along the way.
Hi, everyone. I am psychologist Dr. Ali Mattu.
And I'm Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek. One of us is a real doctor.
And as always, we'll leave it to you to figure out who that might be. This week on Life Support Live, we're talking about chosen families, families you choose. And so to start things off, we'd like to know what's your favorite example from Star Trek of a chosen family. Let us know in the comment section. I say that, but not every platform has it down there. Some have it over here or over there, like
I always
Twitch.
say to the right. Yeah.
Larry, if this is someone's first time here at Life Support Live, what is this? What is this grand adventure that we are taking part in?
Well, if it's your first time here, make sure and have a glass of something or a cup of something handy. Because you never know when the drinking game will break out at 10 in the morning on a Pacific morning. Hi, everybody. For our veterans and our newbies alike, yeah. Life Support Live, born out of a coronavirus con cancellation, is our look at Star Trek and mental health, or mental health through Star Trek, or whatever. But we geek out every week. We have a theme. You guys have a wide open chat going here. We'll dip in and out of that, and love the fact that you're all here. And we talk about Star Trek and our theme of the week. We actually almost have a structure to this, where we have a briefing session. We look at those. Dr. Ali has what do you call it? What's it called?
Counselor's log.
Counselor's log. Yes. Do you like the way we did that? We also have away mission tips for you to bring to daily life. Somewhere along the way, I will chime in probably more than once with a K3 factor, which is we take the theme and adapt it to the backstaging of Star Trek, which is what I do in real life. And we all around have a good time, have a great community. And yes, we have a Facebook group over there. If you're not there, please go over and like and subscribe. No, that's not what you do on Facebook. But you know what I mean. Go over there. We do some special things from time to time. We have watch-alongs. We have special guests now. So we're very glad you found us. And lately, we have been doing the theme of the week based on the new Trek episode for 23 weeks, which is about to end. So we'll go back
today.
Today. That's it. I'm done with this. Let's finish it today. Anyway, but we're really glad you're here, and I will do my best to stay up with the chat. And at the very end, that we just open hailing frequency and hit everybody by then. But what's up with you? It's such a dull week. I'm so glad for something to think about this week.
Wow, what a week in the United States it has been.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well,
the rest of the world
Scott's asking.
Too. We didn't need zip ties on the rest of the world for them to all be following what was happening here. Also.
Last week I got a little bit of flack for my Back to the Future shirt, so I dug up a Star Trek shirt I have not yet worn on Life Support Live. So and Scott was asking, "This is my Larry. Do you recognize what the shirt is from? It's Spock, but do you recognize the campaign it's from?
Is that from the 50th anniversary Comic-Con?
No
artwork,
but same year.
Okay, well, 50th anniversary. Then
this was from the Boldly Go campaign, the Omaze Boldly Go campaign that was launched alongside Star Trek Beyond. So this was one of the things you could get if you donated to that charity campaign, and so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is my Spock. It is new Spock, but I love new Spock too. So, Scott, that's the
new Spock is all you have.
Sometimes the new Spock's all you have. So we're already getting great recommendations in the chat for ideas of chosen family, but we want to start this off where we usually start off is a little bit of a non-spoiler discussion of this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery, and Larry, this was the season finale. The hope you the hope you bring, the hope you choose, the hope that is you. The hope that is you, right?
I'm just waiting to see part 2 at the end. So yeah.
Yes. So this was the season finale to season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. Of course, we're not getting into spoilers. You know, folks, the other thing we're not getting into is, was this good or bad? That's not what this show is. We don't talk about that. We talk about Star Trek.
The bad as well as.
Yeah. So, Larry, I'd love to get your thoughts about how this episode sort of how it resonated with you in terms of all the stuff we talk about here.
As far as all the stuff we talk about here, it was satisfying. It was I was very detached from this episode. It was kind of interesting. It's just referring to the episode itself. There were so many plot strings going that they did wind them up. Some got more time spent with than others. I was so keen and so high, and I've seen this echoed, not that I look around the internet to see what other people are saying usually, but I saw other people echoing this too. You remember I was so high last week on the way that Osira had been developed past, not just the fact that the villain had been developed past being a cardboard villain, and really took some surprising turns into 3D land and some really bold, daring kind of story development points. And everything kind of, that was last week. This week, it was like, oh, we've got 47 threads we have to cram in and end this last episode. So, I was disappointed. I just really felt like there was a muddle at the end of it, and I've seen other people think that same way. And I don't even talk about Turbolist, but I'm valiantly trying to come up in my head of a way, since apparently nobody else is doing it that works on the show. But, that being said, amazingly, it's like there was this split tier, this 2-level approach to this episode. And while structurally some of it seemed like a train wreck, or maybe a turbolift wreck, character-wise, and the emotional beats and moments, there were some incredible things going on. And a couple of daring moves even then. And that's really where our theme bore out from. For one thing, the Kelpians. And I sent you some images here.
Yes.
So one of the ones that was kind of the most, I think everything the most shocking was that they're going to end. It's like, oh, this isn't just a finale. It's going to be a quasi slow motion cliffhanger on a couple of issues, but they've gone away and left. Well, they've left Saru not on the ship. They paired him up with Su'Kal on modern day 32nd century Kaminar. Sorry, spoiler there maybe. But it was just interesting that they put the two Kelpians together is what it amounts to. And it's like, since you find out the fate of Su'Kal's family, well, 120 years later, guess, but they put Su'Kal and Saru together. Su'Kal and Saru, say that 5 times fast. And it kind of led into our emerging theme here this week of chosen family, because people who don't have a family either by no choice, because they're all dead, they're out of time sync, whatever's going on, or people that find their own family by choice. But they have a choice, and they've gone to find other people who are more satisfying as family or fill the roles more uniquely. And there's another case here where we have the interesting Trill and non-binary case of Adira, and the whole thing of she can see her as mortals.
There.
Yeah. She can see her former lover, but now dead.
Their lover.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. See? Oh, especially after last night on the Memory Alpha discussion, you'd think I'd be up there.
Don't even go there.
Their former lover, but now, for all intents and purposes, sadly, tragically dead, but for the magic of Trillness and some of the, that plus 32nd century holodecks and whatever. Anyway, but a wonderful scene that involves first Culber and then later on Stamets basically being surrogate family as they kind of comfort and console all of them. and about not about especially some metaphorical allegorical bits about being seen and not being ignored, and they're treading somewhere between the fact that it's a trill former host conjured up and now others can see besides the current host. So anyway, there was some allegory there about representation and visibility for trans and non-binary folks that was very touching, even though it was a little on the nose. But you know what? I thought Let That Be Your Last Battlefield was horribly on the nose, and people still love that for its message. So why not? This wasn't nearly that bad. But you could obviously tell what they were trying to do and thought did it well, and I've seen a lot of people take hope from that. So, and even the fact that it's like the bridge crew, which for 2 years was even less used than half of the extras for 7 years on Next Generation. It's like they even found a home in front of the camera, speaking lines in whole scenes, all to themselves. So good on Bryce and Reese and Detmer and Wiskin and the girl that got to shed Ina, who was the big-headed alien, and now she's getting to run around with her real head with no explanation. But good on Ava Blackwell, the actress. It looks like those people have even found a home too. So, and I don't know. I'm straying far from home here, but it was really a dichotomy for me. So all these emotional points were really resonant. I'll deal with the structural, canon parts of the show later, but I thought there was a lot of, for people that's what Star Trek is about for them. I just thought it was probably very, very resonant.
Okay. And
have you been reading? No. About Memory Alpha? Have you been doing that?
No. Thank you. I will not. This season has had a surprising amount of things to say about the present day world we're living in. Mm-hmm. I think this season was really constructed as having commentary on the rise of nationalism and isolation and separation, and whether you want to look at the United States, whether you want to look at Brexit, these larger nationalist themes that have been happening in many parts of the world, and how that conflicts against globalism and our interconnectedness. I think that's been a big theme throughout this whole season. The burn is really like the catalyst for that story, and I think the finale sort of it brought that to an end, that storyline,
especially considering this was written 18 months ago.
Well,
and,
I mean,
because of the pandemic.
And that's what I was going to say, is what's so amazing about this is the nationalism and isolation theme was there before, and we've been seeing that for many years. There's been, I just finished reading Barack Obama's A Promised Land book. Boy, that was a long book. And it's only volume 1. But he talks about it in some of his early years.
Mr. Scott.
It's a big yeah. But he was mentioning it in his early years. He started to see this rise in nationalism. So it's been going on for a long time. But with the pandemic, our struggle to connect with each other has become one of the biggest issues of 2020 and continues now into 2021. And so Star Trek Discovery comes very hard on this issue of connection in this finale.
Well, it was written a macro level connection at the beginning, but now we're all concerned with micro levels, which cascade into a macro.
Yeah, and without, I don't think it's a spoiler to reveal that the episode really ends with this Gene Roddenberry quotation. In a very real sense, we are all aliens on a strange planet. We spend most of our lives reaching out and trying to communicate. If during our whole lifetime we could reach out and really communicate with just 2 people, we are indeed very fortunate. My gut tells me that quotation was not included early on, but was added as this pandemic came to be. And for that reason, I very much love where this season ends. You mentioned this moment here between Hugh, Adira, and Gray,
Mm-hmm.
and chosen family is so often a term that has come from the LGBTQ plus community, and I'll speak to more about that when we get to the counselor's log. But to see these three characters who represent so much of the LGBTQ plus community come together, and Paul too, I should say, he's not in the image,
Mm-hmm.
but Paul too in that moment coming together with them once they're rescued. Oh, spoilers! Well, yeah, you can figure that out. But when they all come
They all
together,
don't die. Okay.
when they all come together, it's such a this season has become such a beautiful story of this chosen family, and I think that's we'll talk about it here in a moment. I mean, Zahir mentioned Data and Spot. Pause down. There's a lot of chosen families we have to get to, but Star Trek is so much about, in these darkest times, in this most difficult periods, can we find a way to connect with each other, connect with other species, connect with people who seem different than us, connect with people who have different beliefs than us. At this end of this episode, Star Trek Discovery is clearly saying, if you can expand the idea of who's in your community, of who's in your family, we can all find the strength to get through dark times as they are now. And so that message is beautiful. And there's not a lot of science fiction out there right now that can end on such a positive note like that. That is Star Trek. That is the optimism. That is, at its core, this idea of coming together, working together to create a better future. So I love that. And we thought that was such a beautiful moment that let's do a whole episode around that. Because, folks, it's been a pretty dark week in the United States. It's been a real tough time, and I think many of us have been turning to our family of origin and our chosen families to support each other through this dark time.
And for a lot in fandom, their chosen family is others in fandom.
Yeah, so that's another thing I wanted to talk about, Larry.
How about that?
Yeah. How about that? Did you just do a Doctor Who right there? Was that, or were we just scratching?
I did a Dr. Trek nose scratch, if anything.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a little
No.
the doctor thing.
Nope.
Anyways,
Never. Never.
Oh man. Well, yeah. So I want to talk about that. I mean, Life Support Live has been a wonderful community for us, and it's very symbolic of how we're connecting now. But in the ways we also can't connect, but have connected in the past. I went on a big nostalgic binge of Star Trek: The Experience this week.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to explain the transporter effect in the Klingon Encounter ride to a friend who never went. And I tried to go online to see if there was good footage of how that worked. And then I went on this nostalgic binge of Star Trek: The Experience, and it made me very nostalgic. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Imagine
that would be a tautology. My nostalgic binge made me nostalgic, but it made me miss our in-person fandom and our in-person connections, and are seeing the same people at these gatherings and catching up with how things have been. And I think that is a part of chosen family. Is your fandom.
Yeah, well, I mean, I said this before. There was a time like in the 90s when computers were and the internet were such a big thing originally, and way before social media. But, the internet version 1.0, there was a lot of talk about taking over so many functions. We were wondering if live fan clubs and live conventions in fandom would survive, because you could order things online, so you didn't need a dealer's room, and you could You got your news. You even got your gossip online now. So what would be the point of going to a convention? And it kind of overlapped with a low point for Star Trek when Enterprise was struggling to stay on and relevant and all that, and then go away, and we had all the early years of the fallow times. But as social media came in, it's almost like it didn't kill live fandom. It made it relevant to where, at least as far as like the even your local convention, even if it's a smaller convention, it's annual, hopefully, and you look forward to it, and it becomes ritualized. And it's almost like live events, club meetings, and especially annual conventions, whatever your one is that you do, one or two or three or whatever. It's like that became the way that you actually met the people. Like you like the online was a feeder system. That was your gateway. And then you actually met people online, and you met the people that you've been talking to all year long. And it was like, oh, there's a whole, then we've gotten into a whole new relevancy here, people to cosplay and show off their, it's come full circle. But there was a time when I remember we were all wondering, well, are we going to get so damn technological and modern that it's going to do away with the need for local for in-person fandom? And thankfully here, 10, 20 years later, the answer is obviously no, to the point now where this year we're so missing it. I mean, we have this lifeline, thank God, that it was, 20, 30 years ago, we wouldn't have had this. And we would have been even nutsier. But
we would have been reading every magazine we possibly could, but that's all we kind of would have had.
But it's good. And now in my mind, the image of what everything is going to look like when people do start safely and with confidence, people start turning out for live events again, and how it's just going to be overwhelming,
Yeah, and I hope we can bring this
a little bit like trying to overwhelm Book with his empathy, the neural lock. I love how that thing got a name 10 episodes later. But it'll be a little bit like that. It's like, you're going to overwhelm him. He's going to be too empathic. It'll be that way.
Yeah. I'm really glad we had so much new Star Trek to be able to dive into and discuss and connect over, and also as family, as family does, Larry, to fight over as well. There's a lot of that happening as well. But a couple of months ago, I watched the Social Dilemma documentary on Netflix. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's a documentary about social media. And there's a quotation there. It might have been from a science fiction author. I don't remember. I'm going to butcher the quote. But it's something to the effect of, with rapidly developing technology, we're going to be unclear if we're headed towards a utopia or dystopia. And we won't really know till the very end of the race. And that is one way in which I feel about social media and our technology. In some ways, it's allowed us to connect like this. And bring community together, and this I absolutely love. One of the other things that's happened is we're connecting, and besides you and me,
we're connecting like this.
Yeah. Well, besides you and me, there's no real face-to-face connection here. And, is humanity really built for having such a large-scale connection with people all over the world who are coming from different languages and cultures and beliefs and information? And some of the challenges we have over disinformation and conspiracy theories and all of this sort of stuff, it's very hard to navigate all of that stuff just over social media. So I think some of the big conflicts we talked about toxic fandom a long time ago. I think that might have been episode or gatekeeping in fandom, episode 8 or so. But this is some of the challenges we have of how do you connect over imperfect technology at a global scale. So it's been hard, but I really hope this is the year. I think Cairo said it. This is about hoping that this is the year that we do have. Let me read his comment. Cairo47 said, this will hopefully also be a year of reconnecting or start a phase of reconnection, hopefully in the second half at least. So interesting to start the year with this theme. Cairo, this is a transition episode for us too. We're wrapping up. How many weeks of new Star Trek was it, Larry?
23 straight weeks!
Yeah. have we ever had? No, we've had 23 straight weeks. Wait, TNG, DS. No, you're right. They took breaks.
There were
The
always
sweeps
breaks. There would be reruns. Right.
Yes.
You never had
Yes.
23 in a 26 episode season. You never had 23
Yes.
straight.
Yes. We've never had this before. What a time to be alive.
What a time to catch up, Ollie. We were saying this in. We were talking about this in September, Ollie, but that's okay.
I remember it's been a lot of stuff's happened.
You've been a little distracted, big time. I can tell, folks, fansies. He's had like a little bit more crack of light availability this week. It's been amazing to see him initiate a conversation. No,
Actually, yeah. So on that note, since there's a lot of transitions happening here, we're wrapping up the 23 straight weeks of Star Trek. We're not going to have new Star Trek. Maybe we'll be lucky at the end of this year. We'll have season 4. They have been filming season 4 of Star Trek Discovery, but Brave New Worlds has been a little bit delayed.
Strange New Worlds.
Strange Brave. Gosh, I did that before.
I never do anything the same way over and over again wrong. Okay.
Strange New Worlds has been delayed. Star Trek Picard Season 2 has been delayed.
Well, I'm thinking that we'll see Prodigy first among anything since it's animated. And they've been
right.
Right, yeah.
Right. Was Prodigy supposed to come out 2021?
I don't think so. But I mean, earlier this year than, I mean, they were, so Discovery was season 3 was supposed to be out in June-ish, I think, and then Lower Decks after that. So they were both delayed in an inverted order, but I think Prodigy was supposed to be out about now or by summer, by spring.
Well, and speaking of about now, Christoph says, we across the pond get newish Trek in 13 days. Lower Decks is coming out soon. And then Galinda, you cracked me up. Brave New World is real life
right now.
You have to laugh because if you don't laugh, you're gonna cry. So yeah, we're transitioning out of new Star Trek. We are also there's a couple of things happening on Life Support Live here. First off, we have to thank Scott, our very own Scott. Has been working behind the scenes to clean up the audio of our live broadcast and turn that into a podcast for us. So we have the first 8. It's a blast from the past, I gotta say, Larry, listening to these episodes.
All the way back to April.
Yeah. It's a different world, and boy,
there was like 8 or 9 strata levels there of anthropology or something, archaeology.
Oh my gosh! But our first 8 episodes are out now, so whatever your podcast of choice is, if it's Apple Podcasts, if it's Google Play, Spotify, Overcast, wherever you're listening to your podcast, we're there, and our first 8 episodes are out, so thank you, Scott. Thank you, Scott, for making that happen. And while we're thanking people, we also want to thank Jared and Scott for helping us to moderate our chats across all the platforms that we're at. It's always hard.
Such a growing empire, yes. Having help is helpful, though. So yes.
Great live streams will be broadcast today in this growing empire. So thank you, Scott and Jared, for helping us to manage all of this. Every now and then, someone comes in Twitch and says horrible stuff and does these snipe attacks and then leaves. Scott and Jared are keeping this community as safe as possible. So, Larry, should we talk about Chosen Family and Star Trek? Oh, no. One more transition. Bear with me, folks.
You keep saying that word. I don't know if you know what that means.
One more thing. I'm like the uncle at the Chosen Family table that is making a speech and doesn't shut up. Just one more thing, folks. I got one more thing. Everyone's clapped because they thought I ended.
I have an image of the uncle at the table, and you are not it. But proceed, Governor.
Next week, we're doing a transition episode. Mm-hmm. So this is wrapping up new Star Trek today. Next week, we're going to have a fun transition episode. We're going to do a watch-along, folks.
Another one already, yes. because we're lazy and don't want to think about a theme for next.
I think we all need it. We need a little watch along. We're not sure what to do, but we want to do something that we haven't done already. So that means we don't want to do a TNG movie. We don't want to do the Next Generation episode. We don't want to do Deep Space Nine. That leaves the original series. It leaves Voyager. It leaves Enterprise.
Broadly, what we haven't done in the broadest of sense, as in by series.
Not like what we haven't done in the over 800 hours of Star Trek that's out there. So let us know in the comments section what if you have a request. We have an idea for a two-parter from Voyager that we might want to tackle, but we want to hear your thoughts.
And given what kind of a hellish year this has been, you probably have already way ahead of us what we were thinking about. But
yeah, it really has been a year of...
We'll have something on the Facebook page to throw in choices or votes or whatever also.
Yeah,
so
it's been quite a year of purgatory? Okay, and with that,
Stovacore,
Larry,
yes.
Let's Stovacore. It's so much fun to talk in Klingon. Klingon, Kaplach,
says you.
Doc Viridian.
Okay. At least you have a Klingon language to speak in. Anyway.
All right, so Larry.
Yes.
Where should we go
with this? Families. Well, I mean, I've been watching. I actually have been trying to keep up in the chat here. Not bad. I see a lot of things being thrown out, guys and gals. And so feel free to throw in your thoughts. I started reading again, but yeah. So, this is a case where I feel like we're dealing with the structure and tone of TV over the generations. Because I go back to the original series, and there's not a whole lot of between the cracks emo subtext going on. I mean, it's really subtextual, and that's what all the fan fiction early writers picked up on, all around Spock and everything. And then some people, it's out of the spotlight, but all fan fiction first generation was not just Spock and Ponfar and 7-year cycles. People did write about Uhura and Sulu and Chekhov and and Chapel, even without Spock. I mean, it all got touched. But as far as a production, a lot of things matured really when the show went to yes. Let's go to the briefing room and let's classify this. Let's put slap the label on it. It feels like as you look at, especially compared to all the later series and cast groupings, that it was really the movies where a lot of things like that matured, between the lines, and they had the freedom to do that in the changing landscape. So it was always there. I almost put up this. There's the scene in Amok Time when Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are in the elevator, and Spock is starting to be, Ponfard, and go into the Black Tau fever.
He's starting to be Ponfard. I like it.
Not Ponfarded, just Ponfard. But and he looks over at McCoy and says, "I also request McCoy," and he says, "I'd be honored, sir." And it's like, if you haven't picked up on this before, here's why D gets third billing above the line and is getting residuals now. It's like, here's the Trinity, the way it's evolved. But I think for a lot of people, the manifestation of that visually, with the most fun behind it, is the one I sent you there. Are we on a no image policy today? Cause
no. I'm looking for.
I didn't send that many things this week, so I.
You're looking for the. Oh gosh! Well, this is one of my favorites. One of my favorite moments with these characters.
Yeah, and this is like a lot of people. This is like their only favorite moment in Star Trek V. And I look at this and I go, okay, I just wish there could have been another better favorite moment. But this will do.
Hey, if people want to talk about turbo lifts, we could talk about turbo lifts in Star Trek V.
Oh, I know. Oh, right. But that was like a limited case where everybody says, oh my God, what a mistake. We'll try to deal with it.
It's a limited case of a time-space distortion in the turbo lifts.
Right.
Maybe that's our canonical explanation.
But at least they were. Well, I was trying to figure out if the 32nd century was bringing I was kidding, and then I saw other people go, yeah, it's a subspace pocket. That's the way. It's programmable matter subspace turbo lifts. That's what it is. Yeah. Anyway, but that's a moment of chosen family. They're all. Yeah. I mean, in the broadest sense, the crew of anything, if it's a functional group, And of course, we don't see all 430 crewmen. We see the 8 or 9, the 7, 6, 7, 8 bridge crew typically, and then especially the Trinity, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. And this is probably the best, most at ease moment you get for them anywhere in the all together this way anywhere in any of the franchise. So and not talking Kelvin, but here. So it's valuable for that. But they all chose each other. McCoy's had a divorce. Kirk's never been married. He winds up being married and or in relationships and all that. And Spock has this horrible habit of being dethroned, and then he betrothed, and then he runs away from his intended. No. So yeah, they've all found each other as a family that way. And you're talking about the original series. I mean, everybody is apparently in their own family. And as the years go by, yeah, Sulu goes off and gets his own captaincy. Yay, he has a family there. I mean, part of the story of anything like a crew working together. A crew is like a really highly structured team of working on anything, about as structured as you could get with military ranks or whatever, or quasi-military ranks. I know. But yeah, I don't know. That's what came up to me for original series. And then
yeah, I absolutely love that.
If somebody has another great idea on this, please do. If there's something among the backstory, the canon background to any of the episodes, all of that, that's yay, great. But that's what came to mind too. I mean, I'm sure they're there.
There's a beautiful moment there where I'm saying beautiful moments a lot. I don't know why. Maybe because we're talking about so many beautiful moments.
Week, so go for all the beautiful moments you
have. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Kirk says, I didn't think I knew I was gonna die. And then, Spock kind of raises an eyebrow. I can't intentionally raise an eyebrow. That's why I can never play a Vulcan.
You can't do everything, Ollie? Oh.
I know. I hate to disappoint our community. Yeah, I hate to do. There's many reasons why I couldn't play a Vulcan, but raising the eyebrow. I can do this. I don't need to tape my fingers. Sorry, Zachary Quinto, but I can do this on myself.
No, on a filament line, William Shatner. Okay.
Yeah. But Spock raises an eyebrow, and McCoy's like, "What do you mean, Jim?" And then he says, like, I knew I wasn't going to die because I wasn't alone. And the spirit of brotherhood is really what's communicated in that scene. That these three men love each other. They consider each other brothers. And if you're not clued into it yet, Spock and Bones' little rivalry, it's born out of love. Whether he's making fun of his, green-blooded hobgoblin, whatever, or if he's making fun of his marshmallows, it's really out of love for each other. And then Kirk,
very sibling-esque. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Kirk dies with someone who's not his friend, I guess. He does die on a bridge.
We're merely colleagues. Yeah, he does do. Yeah. He does die on under the bridge.
But I think that's when we're speaking of chosen family. That's probably the first one we see, and whether we look at Star Trek the original series cast, or we go all the way to Star Trek Discovery, and Admiral Vance says a very similar thing in the season finale that he does have a child, he does have a family. They're very far away because it's not safe for them here. And you really get the impression that the people he works with fill that role. He has a family and he has a chosen family, and his chosen family is in Starfleet. They love each other, they support each other, they fight with each other, they push each other forward, and we have Kirk, Spock, and Bones really to thank for that tradition. And it's a tradition, Larry, that very much echoes. We talked about chosen families in the LGBTQ plus community. Chosen families also, they exist all over the place, but they also very much exist in the armed forces,
right,
in the military, and veterans. This idea of considering each other like you've served together, you consider each
Band
other
of brothers.
siblings.
You can't get much
Yes.
more surrogate family than that, right?
A wonderful HBO series. If anyone hasn't seen it, my goodness, Band of Brothers is really phenomenal. But yeah, this is a great parallel to that. You know, a lot of people forget that Star Trek has many stories. One of my favorite, I have probably about 5 favorite conversations that Larry and I have in person that can go for hours. And
We do?
we've talked about, yeah. There are only 5, Larry. And
Okay.
do not exceed those 5.
Not
But,
47. Okay.
that's
Close to
I see.
4.7. Yeah.
Well, you know, I have 31, and you don't want to see what happens if we reach 31. But
No, Mr. Baskin, I don't want to see that. Okay.
one of my favorite topics is oh gosh, what was it now? Now I forgot. Oh right. How big of a sandbox Star Trek is, and how there are rooms for many different types of stories, swashbuckling adventures, social commentary, family relationships, romance, action, adventure, all sorts of things. Right? Star Trek is a very big sandbox, and one of the things in where was I even going with this? One of the things, I don't know where I was going with
Something about
this.
family. Something about you were all, yeah.
Yeah. The military and the armed forces. If you look at Wrath of Khan is very much a story about service and duty and fulfilling an oath and protecting your ship. It's about self-sacrifice. It's about I've heard this from a lot of folks who have served in the military who see Star Trek as very much honoring these ideas of service to a larger cause and protecting the people that you have sworn an oath to. And
Right.
Wrath of Khan is a wonderful example of that.
No one left behind.
No one, yes.
We just thought,
Admiral
that
Vance.
is one thing about this thread of discovery. Burnham was not about to let them take off without
No.
trying to get
No.
back to get Saru and Culber.
And
it's-
Admiral Vance says that to Saru. I'm paraphrasing, but he says, "We're Starfleet. We don't leave anyone behind." So Kirk, Bones, and McCoy, or Kirk, Bones, and Spock. Wonderful example, Larry. It does all start there. Can I slingshot us very much forward in the timeline?
Watch the sun, but yes, go ahead.
I really want to talk about these 3. I mean, if you want to talk about family, my favorite episode of Star Trek Picard is Nepenthe. And let me make this a lot bigger in case folks can't see it.
Who and whose army? Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? The relationship between Jean-Luc, Will, and Deanna, and I'm using their first names because that's the state of their relationship.
You can do that when you know them.
Yeah. We're like this, the 4 of us. It's actually really this relationship between the 4 of us. But the Nepenthe is it's so much about family. In this moment where Picard is really nowhere else to go and is kind of messed up in some ways and needs help, he goes to his chosen family. The only family he has left is Will and Deanna, and they welcome him as they would anyone else that they deeply love.
In the moment of crisis, before this is why this episode just sticks, and it's not just because they're at a log cabin in the woods and it's so rustic and peaceful like he is on vacation, which was the point. But all up until this, the whole series, aside from when he was out in the sun, the sun-drenchedness of his French vineyards, other than that, the whole damn show is in the dark. It's in the dark. It's in the dark. It's in the dark. And in the dark right before this, it's dark in the dark, and he's talking about, I've got to get somewhere. You know, they're on the hunt, they're on the run, they're on the chase, and he's got to go somewhere where he can take a breath. And it's like, what is the one? At the beginning of the show, Larish looks at him and says, "What about, you mean like Worf? You mean like LaForge?" And he's like, "No, I can't do that." But he goes to the one place that he knows he can go and be protected and have a moment to get his thoughts, where he can take her with him, and it's safe for her as well. yeah, I mean it's obvious what's going on there, and where he has colleagues. By the way, did you see the latest from Michael Chabon, who's the showrunner for Picard season 1, giving more about the Thad Riker backstory that was never
No.
on screen, and it's just some of the stuff that was developed. And basically, I've heard of it, but I hadn't even thought about it. So now I have to go get an account at Medium, but that's where I guess Chabon blogs or whatever. Anyway, he talked about Thaddeus, who was amazing because it was named for his grandfather we heard in Death Wish, the Voyager Q suicide show, and they have a picture. Apparently, Q saved his great-great-grandfather Thaddeus Iron Boots Riker in the Civil War, yada yada, and who was a member of the Pennsylvania, which is where Frakes is from. But his name was Thaddeus. So at the time, it was like, oh, look, they named Thad after his one Riker besides Kyle Riker, his dad, that we know who it is, Kyle and Betty. But he's revealed that his middle name, when they named their son, his middle name was Worf. I see you're reading. Okay. Anyway.
No.
I know people saw that. That was a news story just this week that came out. People are reading. What's much news? Somebody went over and bothered to read Chabon's. So anyway, talk about family and extended family and who we depend.
Well, and that makes me think of this scene that you brought up here. This was
this is the only master shot. It's amazing to me going back and looking at this. Aside from the famous overhead pull-out view, there's no scene of all of them at the table, unless you're looking at like the front cover of the shot they took, like it's on the front of the last version of the Companion. But there's no master shot like from the side of all of them sitting at the table. Deanna comes in, and then Picard comes in, and after that, it's all just two shots.
I mean, one of these days we'll do all good things. We're gonna have to really save that for a special occasion. But something I really love about the Next Generation is the poker games.
That's in First Contact, but it's kind of mocking that. It's not that moment, but anyway, it's that feeling. There's no shot like that from All Good Things, is what I'm trying to say.
No, yeah, which is unfortunate. I mean, they were hastily trying to finish that so they can film the movie too. So maybe they just someone forgot. But the thing I love about the poker scenes in TNG, so TNG is serialized. There are storylines that persist across seasons, but not in the way that they do in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, or Discovery or Picard. However, the poker scenes are something that continue across seasons, and you do get the impression that this is a ritual these group of people have to come together, relax, support each other, learn from each other, push each other. All of those things that I'm going to talk about when we get to the counselors.
It's a lot more private than hanging out in 10 Forward, too.
Yes.
Even more so.
And it is quite symbolic when Picard joins them and says, I should have done this years ago. And is it Troy that says, "You're always welcome"?
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that's a moment where Picard's relationship changes a bit with his crew, and that's what we see a bit more in the movies, is a little bit more of a relaxed Picard around his crew. I think that's where he's getting... I think we see it in episodes here and there, but we saw that in the end of Tapestry, where Riker says... this brash young Picard. Like I would have loved to have met him. And Picard says, "Well, actually, there was this one time when Fade to Black, created by Gene Roddenberry." There's moments we see that, but once he really joins that ritual, you do get the impression he was always welcome, because he knows they do this thing. He knocked on the door, like he knows this is happening. But that's the time that he kind of really joins them. And I think he's moving from this head of a household type of role to someone who's on the same level. as everyone else, and I love that moment, and it pays off in Nepenthe in Star Trek Picard, and not to mention the movies as well. So yeah, I love it. Someone asked, let's see if I can find it, Larry. Someone asked about Deep Space Nine, and of course,
Deep Space
every character
Nine was
qualifies.
the first spin-off series to follow after. No, go ahead.
Steve asked, would the relationship between Garrick and Bashir count as a chosen family relationship? Well, Steve, Larry and I
asked that question, my boy.
Larry and I very much were talking about Garrick. There's a lot of obvious ones. Bashir and O'Brien, like, obviously they're like brothers.
Well, some of this, here's the thing. When you say chosen family, and we say, well, Garrick and Bashir or Bashir and O'Brien, it seems like family should be more than two. Now, sometimes that's all you get, and you're glad for that. But that's just like, to me, that's a relationship, like a one-to-one. That's a twofer. That's a coupleness, even if it's same sex. When I think of family, I'm thinking like bigger groups. And we were talking about Garrick, and I sent that image too.
Yes.
Garrick, it's hard to find Garrick in a group setting. This isn't really the most, sentimental of moments here, but
no.
But the whole point of it is that Garrick is an outcast from his home world anyway, and his home, his family, his dad. He and his dad, aren't. And then he has to watch his dad die and barely have any kind of reproach with him, if nothing at all. But the idea being that Garrick is in a show that's full of, stop me if you've heard this before, full of outcasts from family or orphans of family, that Sisko comes to the station. He's got Jake, but he's kind of almost like an orphan from Starfleet. It's like he's so down on everything, and he's on the verge of leaving. But it's the family of, it's the island of misfit toys. I mean, the same way that Picard is, the same way that some of the other latter shows are. Anyway, but Garrick especially can't go home, so he's got to make a new family here, or go bonkers, or just be a hermit or whatever.
Yeah. So Scott asked the question: how are we distinguishing between family and friendship in Trek? So I was get into this more in the briefing, not the briefing room. That's what we're in the counselor's log. But to mention it here, when it comes to chosen family, we're talking about very close, mutually supportive bonds, where there's a clear intention that I am supporting you, you're supporting me. Sometimes it's emotionally, sometimes it's financially. I'm not going to get into finances of Star Trek here, but it's more than friendship. It's more than just spending time and enjoying time with each other. It's really being there for the tough stuff. It's being there when you need help, and there's clear intention behind it. The reason why Garrick came up in our discussion is he is so isolated and cut off from anyone who would be considered family of origin. He is so alone and so reaching for some type of support. And it seems like the closest person that comes to that is Bashir. Although I don't know if it's really a mutually supportive bond. It's not. But Garrick is a very interesting character as he compares to someone there's a very clear chosen family here from Star Trek Voyager, and that's Seven of Nine. Mm-hmm. Seven of Nine, especially her relationship with Catherine Janeway, and then later with the person who becomes her son.
Her surrogate son, right, yeah.
Yeah. This is a very clear chosen family. There are very clear roles here. And
I should throw in there, not in this picture, but even a surrogate daughter, Naomi Wildman becomes kind of even a surrogate daughter after a while.
Yeah. And I mean, we could go around and around with Voyager because they're all isolated and separated, and we talked about that in, I think, our 4th episode, which now you can download the podcast version too. Thank you, Scott. the the unique thing, though, I think with Janeway and Seven that we see that is different from the sibling relationship that Dax and Cisco have, for example. I would say that they very much like Bones and Kirk and Spock. They have a sibling relationship that now goes across 3 hosts, and it's something very special that Cisco and Dax have. But Janeway and Seven, Janeway's a clear mother role, a parent role to Seven, and Seven clearly needs that role in her life, and she's going through. It seems like she is going through all of her adolescence and early adult years, crunched down, mixed with trauma and being a refugee. And there's so much that Seven is going through. Seven needs someone like Janeway in her life, and she's very fortunate and lucky that that person is Janeway and not what's his name from the Equinox. Could you imagine, Larry, if
Captain Ransom?
Could you imagine if Seven didn't have someone like Janeway in her life, someone who could be the disciplinarian at times and say, "This is a Starfleet ship. We have protocol. You need to follow the rules." But at other times, highly nurturing. In other times, she is learning from Seven, as often parents do learn from their children. When Seven is being rebellious and saying, "Look, I have a better way to do this. Let me put my nano, what are they called? Nanobots?
Nanoprobes.
Not nanobots. Let me put
Nanobots like the evil versions of.
Right. That would be the mirror universe.
Right.
Yeah.
If the Ferengi grab her nanoprobes, now they're nanobots. Yeah.
What would the Borg even look like in the mirror universe? I mean, how can you be more evil?
Well, it's a nanobot infused beard.
Right.
Even on
the goatees would have more nanoprobes in them. Right. But there's times when Seven pushes the relationship forward. I know behind the scenes we've talked about it on a K3 Factor here about some of the difficulty behind the scenes when Jerry Ryan was brought in and how that changed the dynamic. But
it's amazing to me how Kate Mulgrew, it was really Kate's fault. She's owned up to it, and you can see it in a human way that she was angry and jealous that they thought they had to bring in a babe factor to the show when she was the first female to lead a star. You get all that. I just think it's a testament still that they were both professionals, and then Jerry had to react to it, and she kept trying to take the high road, even though, and it split. At the time it was like divisive on the set, and it wasn't like people picked camps. It was all like, let's just get through this. And that's what's amazing is we sit here and watch this 20 years later. I mean, I watched it week to week and knew that was happening and was amazed at the job. Yeah. They weren't just being professional. They were enriching the show and doing everything that the writers expected of them to do, and that reached out to fans. And over the years here, decades later, people still enjoy watching these episodes and seeing that, and having it come as a shock to people that didn't know that. They didn't know it from at the time, or they haven't followed the whole makeup saga of when they've made up on stage and in public, and no, it's not just for show. They really, really have got to a point where that was silly, and I'm embarrassed to talk about it now. But come on, let's get on with life now. And the years are growing shorter, so let's all enjoy this now, and even make some hay and make some therapy out of getting over it now. But it's still a shock when people hear that whole saga behind the scenes for the first time to look at the episodes and go, my God, they were having this row, and they brought these, here's Kate is feeling this way, and yet she has these scenes with Seven that are so maternal and nurturing, and even back and forth at times, like you said, she's learning. It's amazing to me, but that's a testament to, if you're really, if you're trained in a job, it's like any other job where you can't stand somebody, but you do it for the greater good, and it's not a sabotage situation. And this
Yeah,
is
there's
where if it was sabotaging, it would have been very public very quickly.
it
They're
would have
all
been
on
very
camera.
obvious.
They are
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
on camera,
Yeah,
so
there's two things I want to share here from the comments. The first one comes from Nathaniel, who says, like I wrote before, it's difficult to overestimate the importance of the relationship between Brooks and Lofton on Deep Space Nine, the actors who played Benjamin
Cisco and Jake,
Sisko
yes.
and Jake Sisko. It's truly rooted in the series and made it genuine. Avery Brooks really took the actor who plays his son under his wing and treated him very much as his son. As he
And
has mentioned in interviews.
not that he needed, not that Jake was, I mean, the Sirach was an orphan or anything in real life.
No.
It wasn't that, but for, yeah.
So we have this, and that relationship has persisted, as Sirach has said in many interviews. He this is an example of how, especially after the original series, behind the scenes, a lot of the casts have become not only friends, but in some cases, so much more. And that is that ties into Charlotte's comment here, which is not to be sappy, but to be sappy. Aren't friends the family we choose? There's a lot of folks in the comments that are saying, I consider my friends to be my family. And I think our community here is a bit more idic when it comes to the line between friendship and family.
Yeah.
That's becoming very clear to me here. That Glinda also says, I don't know if my psychology divides friend from family. So I think our community here is, and Glenn says this as well, it's my personal belief that friendship is in and of itself a level of family. So our community here, I think, is very open to some of these ideas, but for some folks, there's more of a clear line between what does family mean and what do friends mean, and where's the interaction and where's the separation between the two. So it's just wonderful to see how people are very much thinking in these ways. Let's see. Anything else?
As
We
far
should
as
probably mention, since we're on the topic of Seven, Seven's
right.
her story continues into Star Trek Picard, and just to mention Star Trek Picard a little bit, everyone here, Larry, is a bit alone and isolated, and has become detached from the people they love.
Right.
And
Picard, the Firefly of Star Trek. That's yeah.
Oh man, it got banned from many places, but I made a mashup of the Firefly theme and the Star Trek Picard images after the first trailer was released. I think it's still up on YouTube, but it got banned on Facebook and Instagram. But that was my exact first impression when I saw the teaser. I was like, this looks like Star Trek Firefly. But this story is a story of people who don't really feel like they have much family, and their story of coming together. And that's something we've kind of mentioned.
And you literally saw, well, Picard, you knew, right? He has to have Romulan one-time Tal Shiar murderers who have turned over a leaf to come and be his family and caretaker and all that, because we know he's the last Picard. But everybody else you meet in this story, just about, Jurati loses her lover and actually winds up killing him. Everybody else, you watch Raffi's son reject her again. You know, it's like everybody has it. You know, Rios talks about his one-time Starfleet family is, immolated. I mean, not literally, but everybody comes to the table with Soji doesn't have the family she thought she had is fake. So it's all, Seven comes in having no family, and what little shred of a family she had is murdered along the way. So it's, they're all falling, they're all clumped together.
Jared says, That's Star Trek writing rule number 3. Your actors are fighting, more scenes together. I also like this comment just kind of cracked me up. Melanie says, "You can pick your friends, you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your relatives." I haven't heard that before. I really love that. And Charlotte also said, "Not true, Larry. Firefly never got a second season." Don't hold your breath. They still have to be able to film it. Hopefully that'll happen. But
Wait, are you talking about Firefly? Or are you talking about Picard?
I'm talking about Picard. But actually,
okay.
This week there's rumors that Disney's going to bring back Firefly now that they own it. Who knows?
It was one
Disney
of
owns everything.
I'm sorry. I thought that entertainment was based on capitalism. How could you not? I mean, they did the movie. It didn't do bang up business, but in this model, anyway. Sidebar. We need another podcast for that, I guess.
Yeah.
The only other franchise outside of Star Trek that I ever really cared about was Firefly. And no, I was not.
Oh, I didn't know this.
I was not a brown coat. I'm so bad. I kept saying I was never a brown shirt, and I have to stop and remember. Especially these days, I have to remember to say brown coat, not brown shirt. But no, that was it. Firefly always reminded me of Star Trek, except like they only got the one season. It wasn't even a full season.
Yeah,
they got their movie a hell of a lot faster than Star Trek did.
That's true.
It's kind of like even. But the way the fandom reacted and just ballooned up out of nothing and hung on and hung on and hung on. That's what. Yeah,
Take
always.
My love, take my land, take me where I cannot.
It happened to us both evenly. I don't know. That was weird.
Looks like we're back. Okay, folks.
Are we all in the same organization together?
Hopefully we're all in the same space-time continuum.
Are we all still in the same subspace turbolift shaft together?
Robert says Disney got him. I must have broken some copyright. I must have done some copyright infringement by singing the theme song there to Firefly.
You only broke the copyright infringement against good taste. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, what I was going to say, Larry, is should we open up the counselor's log?
Oh, please, let's do the counselor's log, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Let's go into the counselor's log. This is the part of the show where...
From Firefly, it's time to go to the counselor's log. Okay. Oh, you know what? We didn't mention, I did have one more mention. We were trying to include Enterprise and think, it's still so, Enterprise is so close to the NASA vest and they're all kind of heroic and all of that, but I just about think of that cast of the regulars. You have to say T'Pol is the one who is finding a surrogate family. She's not an outcast. Sometimes as it goes along, she takes on some outcastish tones for some of her decisions. But she is clearly finding a new family among the humans, much less the Enterprise crew. And you sing Disney, you get frozen.
Cairo, that I'm dying inside. You sing Disney, you get frozen.
Cairo,
that's wonderful.
Just let it go.
Let it go. Edit! It's time for the counselor's log, folks. With that, so I want to honor I want to honor both the theme that brought up this idea of chosen family, but also the history here. So there's a very long history in the LGBTQ plus community of chosen family, and I want to mention why this is. A lot of folks in the LGBTQ plus community, when their family might become aware of their identity, they might get rejected from their family. They might get excluded. They might get kicked out of their home. They might be cut off from financial support. There's a lot of rejection that can take place. And this has happened often in history. It continues to happen in many parts of the world, United States included. We've made some progress, but this still very much happens. And so the idea of chosen family is one that was born out of a need for safety for people who have been rejected from their family, a need for connection and validation with people who love them for who they are, and understand them, and also a connection to community and meaning and support. So when we say chosen family, there's a big reason why this is so important in different communities, and why this is such an idea that's associated with the LGBTQ plus community, which is why this storyline of Hugh and Adira and Gray and Paul coming together means so much to so many people in the LGBTQ plus community who have been watching this season. It's such a beautiful, natural story of these people coming together of different ages. And Hugh, I have to say, Larry, Hugh has this season just become one of my favorite characters on the show. It's like they realized,
just legalistically Hollywoodized. He got elevated to he's in the opening credits, so he's like a regular. I'll be curious to find out as this came along. And people thought of him as a regular. He's the doctor, but he's not the CMO. That whole thing. But I'd like to know what was the chicken, what was the egg? Did they make a decision to hand him more and elevate him, or was he elevated and then they said, well, we have to write? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Just structurally and within the flow of the evolution of the show, and looking at the landscape of when they made this big format change. I mean, this is getting structural. But whatever it was, they asked him to step up and gave him a lot more. And my God, Wilson has really delivered this year for people. Early on, the first time you got back, the first episode was all about that hero is you, or that tide is you, hero, or whatever it was. No, the part one premiere was just Michael in the new environment, and you got to know everything going, that whole new paradigm world. You didn't even see him until the second episode. So yeah. It's just been that, and I think that's the one that starts off with him narrating. I think that's how we get into that, is him opening. Yes. It's his informal personal log, whatever. But
Charlotte says when Hugh said to Sokal, "You're okay. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you are." I just started bawling. Hugh's empathy is this whole season. I mean, folks, like, what more social commentary do you want? It's all there. Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. You want the big picture stuff? You got nationalism. You have xenophobia. You want tender moments? Every moment with Hugh and another character. The compassion and empathy that Dr. Stamets represents Hugh. Yeah, no. What am I saying? I'm crossing the streams here.
He's the ECO. He's the emergency counselor, organic.
Yeah.
He really is.
Hugh's last name is not Stamets, right?
It's Culber.
Yeah. I don't know why. Yes. I'm mixing Paul Stamets and Hugh Clover. I think I just have a hard time saying the name. I'll just go with Hugh. I'm going to say Dr. Hugh. The moments of compassion and empathy and understanding and support that Hugh has in all moments of season 3 of Star Trek Discovery, that's Starfleet. That is a Federation. Going in with empathy first, not phasers out, but empathy first. Some beautiful moments. Anyways, I'm going on a tangent here. No, Jared, not Doctor Who. Dr. Hugh. I know, I'm confusing folks. But so I want to get back to this. So it's not that only the...
It does seem to be bigger on the inside than it does on the outside.
Anyways, not only is this the idea of a chosen family is something that has that is very common in the LGBTQ plus community, but I talked about other communities earlier, like veterans. We also see this in support groups. People who are recovering from addiction, for example. A lot of chosen families can be created in those moments. Whether you think of them as a mentor type figure or a parent type figure or a sibling type figure. In a lot of these support and recovery communities, chosen families are created. And so what am I talking about? This gets back to the idea, I'm not talking about families of origin, which are families that you are adopted into or born into. I'm not talking about families that are related by blood. I'm talking about families that can come from community, where there is an intentional close bond between you and another person, and you agree to some type of mutual support. And it's not just hanging out together, but you might engage in some shared rituals, whether it's playing poker together once a week, or whether it's inviting everyone over for a Friendsgiving, something like that. But the reason why I think it's important to mention this, I know our community here is very, this idea is nothing new. And some of you are saying, I have friends that I consider this way. Some of us grow up and the parents of our friends kind of become this parent figure in our own lives. I know that's very much true for a few friends that I have. I consider their parents almost like my parents. Like I can go to them for similar kind of things. So I know I'm not saying anything new here for our community, but our society, especially in the United States, narrowly defines family. The U.S. Census Bureau still defines family as a group of two people or more related by birth, marriage, or adoption who live together. And that definition just doesn't fit a lot of people who might be in the LGBTQ plus community. So I'll talk a little bit about how we can create a bit more of a chosen family when we get to the away mission, but I just wanted to present a little bit of that overview. And with that, it's time, Larry, for a K3 factor.
Oh, it is. It is. So, yeah, the K3 factor named for the one clue we can find about mental health in the original series there on the K3 brain scan. K3 is the chance when I get a chance to take a deep dive into the background of Star Trek, as we're doing here with what we see on screen in the plots and characters and fictional universe. But in the real world, it struck me right the minute we decided on chosen family as the theme this week. The entire nature of a movie is one thing, but a movie only lasts for 3, 6, 9 months at a time, depending on your experience. A TV series lasts forever, or it feels like it. I should have brought. There's a T-shirt that I had. I let it go a long time ago, but partway through one of the seasons of the end of Voyager, Dan Curry did a T-shirt up where it's like a Voyager badge. It looks like Badgie almost, but I should have sent it to you. Maybe I'll put it on the page, guys. You'll see it. Anyway, it's a Voyager comm badge behind bars, like prison bars, and it just says Star Trek Lifer.
Ha!
It was because the crew felt like because in TV, it's bad enough in television, in movies and television anyway. People put in insane days at times, especially if you're on stage and you're standing up and you're in the dark or you're on location in the elements or whatever. Jared, you watch too closely. It's you'd think after this is our 39th show, guys, by the way. You'd think after 39 weeks I'd finally get it down.
I still point to the wrong Larry. Look, I'm pointing here, but he's actually here.
I just think everything is backwards. It's just think backwards and just think mirror universe.
I have to think stage right and stage left.
Stage left, even. Okay. But my point is that just the nature of a television show, especially because it's so long. Now, these wimpy little 10, 13 episode seasons, it's still rough, but not nearly as bad as doing 26. But you literally just think of that. That's like you get a 2 to 3 month hiatus, or like it's like a school year. Only instead of your school year, just think if you went to school for 10 and 12 and 14 and 16 hours a day. Just think if you had killer Fridays because everybody could sleep in on Saturday and you didn't have to get around the union rule about paying people more. So all the heavy stuff was dumped on Friday night. Friday night is the longest night of the week. Um, the deal is, you talk to any of these people behind the scenes. Actors too. Actors get to be behind the scenes in this umbrella, but they will talk about the years they work on a series are the toughest. They're rough
Yeah.
on families and
Yeah.
marriages, and
Yeah.
so many people who are together and raise kids talk about, oh my God, my wife raised the kids while I was working on the show for,
Yeah.
it's almost like you're damned with success. If you go from failure to failure show, but you keep working because you're good at what you do, you're not responsible for the show being bad overall. It's the mix. But if you're lucky enough to be in something for 7 or 14 or 15 or 18 years, the way the Berman era ran, and some people, there's a 15 or 20 people who were there all 18 years in all the different fields. That's insane. Your kids they have a whole life of growing up. Their whole childhood goes by while you're spending 16 hours a day, at the stages or in the offices. Yeah. I think I've told the story just when Janet, my wife, was her 5 years in Voyager, and they had writers heart building abuse because on the Voyager side, Brannon's first year or two of show running, he was so over his head and being a little single boy that he would keep Janet and Lolita there as the script consultants, script coordinators, and assistant on call till like 9 at night. Most of the time, people would try to go home at 6, and DS9 did almost always. But they would stay on call, and then they'd get a call at 8:30 or 9. Okay, go home. We're not going to use you after all. I mean, they would sit there for hours. And the night that James, our son, called when he was 4 or 5, and said, "Mom, you should come home right now." And she's like, "I can't. Brannon's got us here." And he's like, "Put Brannon on. Put Brannon on. I'll tell Brannon."
Brannon comes on and says, "Look, we're working on some space Nazi stuff right now. I need all hands on deck."
We're thinking about working on some stuff.
Right.
Anyway, but it is. So I sent you a picture there. This is a very generic answer. I'll go very specific here in a second. But I just wanted to say this entire topic of chosen family, maybe it's a job and maybe you're hired to do it. And the other point here is that's the nature of TV work. But on Star Trek, with very few exceptions, they were a family. And you will listen to, that's why I love about Portal 47. You talk to these folks from behind the scenes, whatever it was they did, and they talk about that and how almost everybody that works on Star Trek and stays in the industry, or they don't, but they will talk about how this was the best job, the best, even with the rough times, the hours, and even when there was a hiccup and they did something to piss somebody off or whatever along the way, but they will still talk about how this was the best part of their career. I'm talking about the Berman, but a lot of people from the original series would say that too, that it was such a challenge and creatively fulfilling, and people felt like they were pioneering. And if there was anything in the world of entertainment you want to be associated with in the moment, and as the years go by, and as the reputation grew, as the geek world came out of the closet, and it was obvious, people love, and especially now, but people love being associated with Star Trek. But on a very individual level, one of the cases I can think of where something was adopted family, chosen family, and this wasn't a big group, and I know she's told this story over the years, but there's probably a lot of people that still haven't heard it. Marina Sirtis had come over from England, the way British actors do, hoping to get big in LA because the market is so much bigger here. The paychecks are bigger. Everything is bigger. So a lot of British actors come over. And she was... I was going to say, they actually still have them. Yeah. But she talks about a story of being at the end of her rope. She, like a lot of actors, they'll come to LA from wherever in the country. Well, she did the same thing from England. I'll give myself 6 months or 9 months or a year or whatever. She was literally at the end of her rope. I don't mean psychologically, but she was packing her bags. She had packed her clothes to get. She had a plane ticket home to England, London, when the call came that she had gotten her final audition role, because she didn't. I don't know if she didn't. And they, up until the last minute, she was reading for. Macha Hernandez when Macha Hernandez was Tasha Yar, before they changed it for casting. And they didn't know what a Beta Z looked like, and they were reading Denise Crosby as an exotic. They didn't know what that would be. And at the last minute, a couple of Justman and Berman said, "Why don't we flip them and have them read for the other?" And they made sorry Hispanic people looking for a character as a regular. They made Macha Hernandez Ukrainian to look like Denise Crosby, and Tasha Yar was born, and Deanna Troy and Beta Zeds became the look of Marina with ringed hair and all that. But the point is, so yay, she gets the job. She doesn't go home, but she has no family. And somewhere along the way, very early on, they knew that Loxana was created to be a way Majel could be on the show. That was a joke from day one. They talked about the Annie Mame of the Galaxy from day one. And so from day one, almost, it was the 4th episode filmed, Haven was, Marina and Majel got very close. And by extension, the early days when Gene was still up and alive and going and robust, before he started having his strokes, he was very close to the next gen cast in the beginning, and Frakes will say the same thing. And so she was close to Gene and Majel, both of them. And they wound up being, I sent you a picture, they were her surrogate family. She was here alone with no family in her world, and she really leaned on them. This is like first season. This is probably some of the publicity for the first season. But it's young Marina and young Majel too, but they were very close. The whole Loxana Deanna thing was kind of funny, but she leaned on them a whole lot. And Gene's passing in the beginning of the 5th season was hard on everybody. But Majel, I'd forgotten this until we got back into this, but she'll be very emotional talking about her bond with not just Gene and Majel, but Majel especially. But there you go, chosen family. You've done with Outdoors, and that's one case where I can remember. And I'm sure there are many others, but that's one case where, there was and when Majel passed in 2008, she was, you would think after, 20 years later or whatever, but she was really, really, it brought all that back up again, and she was really, really, as we all were, but she had a really personal, stake there.
I never really thought through these aspects of the actors' lives. Marina coming over to the United States and not being near family, especially for these very long production days. You can't just go back to England and reconnect with your family, especially back then. We didn't have technology like this. You don't really think through the cost of what it's like to put a show together. I mean, Discovery is filmed in Vancouver, and most of those actors are Toronto. I'm sorry, Toronto? Mm-hmm. It's filmed in Toronto, not Vancouver. Wow, I didn't know they filmed.
You should just leave this whole. You should go pick up some other career, like I don't know, psychology or something. Just this whole TV industry thing to. No.
I didn't know there was a big production scene in Toronto.
Yes, and it's getting bigger all the time. They just built a huge new CBS studio there. But yes, yeah. Wow. No, I know Vancouver is so X-Files 90s. Come on, Ollie.
Well, Battlestar was filmed there. I think that was the big sci-fi show that.
And it still is. It hasn't dried up. But Toronto's become. Yeah.
Wow. Does anyone film in Hollywood still, Larry?
No, absolutely no. It's very sad. It's just a ghost town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It's Glenn says it's filmed in Canada somewhere. Oh man, Scott, don't revoke my card. Give it back. Look, I can do this thing that you all were talking about in the comments section. I can do it. Does that give me back a little bit of cred? I can move them independently. There was a little debate going on. And yes, absolutely, someone mentioned when we get together in person, we should have a karaoke night. Yeah.
Wait, what? I missed this. What are you talking about? Move them independently. What are you talking about?
This is a long time ago. I think someone mentioned that they used to do this for piano exercises to get their fingers stretched out, and then and can you keep one still and move the other? Yeah, I can do that too. Okay. Anyways, these are tangents. Can Larry?
Oh, I was going to do it offset, like do one this way and one the other.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. You can do it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but okay, okay.
If folks are this is so easy for me because I would watch Star Trek when I was young and just practice doing this, just making sure.
You mean
I was
first
kind of
down?
like, I would kind of be like stretching them out so I can make it. Yeah, and now it's just like second nature.
Just make sure to be a nerd gatekeeper and go thumb out. Oh, sorry. You see the wannabes modeling. You see the cosplay people with the
The
belt or whatever, and they're like,
yeah
aha, and you're like,
yeah pro
oh,
tip.
yeah.
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 Think of it like a nacelle on the Enterprise. It needs to be stretched out away from your engineering and saucer section. I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyways, Larry,
I'd say
stop going
that's
off
all.
on tangents. Let's get back. We got a show to run here.
That was Star Trek. What do you mean? Okay. Yes,
Okay,
I'm
so
glad we accomplished something. They
yeah,
film in Toronto. Strange New Worlds will be filmed in Toronto.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, let's get to the away mission.
please.
This is the part of the show where I give you one tip
What can
to
I do?
apply everything we've talked about in some way to your own life. So, I want to bring up the concept of a moai, which is it's spelled. I might be mispronouncing that. Hopefully not. Moai. This is a concept from Japanese culture, and specifically in the Okinawa region, where often at when kids are very young, they're put into these moais that are a small group, 5, 6, 7 people or so, and for the rest of their lives, they come together on a regular basis and they share experiences together, they share advice, they offer financial assistance to each other as needed, but they are a group of people outside of your family of origin with whom you are committed to regularly share experiences with and support. Some moais have lasted decades and decades and decades. Some are for smaller periods of time. When I was in grad school, there were 6 people in my PhD program, and it very much felt like that. Like we would meet on a regular basis, we would celebrate, we would support, we'd share advice, we'd mourn together. We did all of that together. And one of the things, the two things here, and why I'm mentioning this with chosen family, there's 2 big lessons that I take from that can be helpful in our own lives. And why so many people have studied moais is that region there has some of the highest life expectancies, the Okinawa region, and so part of it is probably because of diet, part of it is lifestyle, and part of it is probably because of this support that people have to each other. So if you want to bring some chosen family into your life, some lessons here coming from the moais that have been studied is 2 things. One, making a clear intention with the people that you feel very close to. It can be as simple as saying, I've always thought of us, or I think of us now as siblings. I think of you as a brother, or if it's a friend's parent or someone who's older than you, to say like, sometimes I really feel like you're like a mother to me. Actually saying those words is important because you're expressing the intentions of your relationship. Making it very clear that how you see the other person and how you want the relationship to develop is an important part of this that will push a friendship more into the chosen family category. And then the next thing here is like the poker game in the next generation, having a regular ritual in which you come together with that other person, whether it's once a week, once a month, once a season, whatever it might be, having that ritual where you are coming together and doing those things together. Those are the two things that are really going to help. And in some ways, I have that in my life, and in some ways, the pandemic has very much challenged that. I've mentioned before my Star Trek Adventures role-playing game. I very much feel like that is with my chosen family, and that is one way in which we are coming together to support each other. But in other ways, there are people who I love who it's been very hard to see them in person. Well, not it's been impossible to see them in person, but it's been hard to find ways to make it work online. But those two things will get you a long part of the way there, making that clear intention, sharing how you see the relationship, sharing how you want to see the relationship develop, and then finding rituals that bring you together on a regular basis. That's what I got, and that's probably with what you were saying with Larry, with tying it back to the K3 factor. I don't always do this. You and I both don't always do this, but I think there's a clear connection here between the K3 factor and the away mission. The production crews develop rituals when they're on sets of how to be connected, what they do to celebrate their time together. The clear intention of you have been like a mother to me on this set while we've been doing this series. Those are the kind of things that cement these bonds and lift them above friendship, above coworker, into the realm of chosen
Well,
family.
a lot of them talk about, they'll say, we have been through marriages, divorces, births, deaths, kids' marriages, kids graduations. They talk about all these life moments that they all talk about, either dealing with, or because there's a lot of hurry up and wait. There is so much hurry up and wait in Hollywood. You've got time, and if you've got a little, you've got your little pod. If you're the gaffers, or the lighting crew, or the makeup crew, all hanging out together on the side or in the trailer, it doesn't have to be on stage, or the office gang back over in whatever the production offices are, or the art department, or whatever they are. And they will talk about people share, and the stage brings all the departments together, and visitors at time, even people have to come over from their normal place where they're actually sitting and working, but they will talk about that kind of family feeling. And that's why it's so rare to have, when you have a show that goes on forever, like Bonanza or Big Bang Theory or all the Star Treks, especially with Star Trek, they talk about Bonanza went 18 years, but Big Bang went, 11, 12, whatever it was. Of course, every Star Trek went 7 years, but so many of the same people, especially in the next gen to Voyager to Enterprise side of things. So many of them worked, the actors came and went, unless you were like, Jeff Combs, but or Jonathan Frakes, or you would see LeVar or Jonathan or Roxanne still directing, and that kept it going. But so much of the behind the scenes people, they didn't end after 7 years. They were there for ages, and they really all grew up with each other and had lives coming together. You couldn't help it. And find support. And you had a lot of, backstage romances and maybe some backstage affairs too. And a couple of them we've heard about. But that's, talk about family and being into it. It's almost like, an immigrant family coming over and there's 3 generations living in one apartment because it's they're all trying to get a foothold in the new country. It's almost that way, but you're crammed in, and you're all, especially on a show like Star Trek, you're all on stage. You're not even out on location, like a crime show where they're running around from location to location all day long, and they have one day shooting in the offices. That's the standing set. But Star Trek was 90%, 95% on those same 3 stages in the dark all day long, where it's freezing in the winter, or it's freezing in the summer because you've got to freeze it with air conditioning. So anyway, it's really, and it takes a toll. And you'll hear people talk about, they either start with movies and they love the travel, but they have no chance at a family, so they come back, and even being on a series, that's rough, but at least they're in town, and when they do go home at night for 6 or 8 hours, they at least can look in at their kids and wave at them out the door. But they're at least in town and not totally out of town, for weekends and all this. So it's a rough industry. And I was watching some of the people here in chat were talking about, we got off on this whole Toronto, Vancouver, LA thing and the subsidies. Yes, Hollywood let a lot of business get away. I'm still mad that Star Trek isn't still all in LA, but they're trying to get back to it and do the tax subsidies and all that. But Yeah, that's true.
Well,
Yeah, but I just wanted to
one,
point that out, that
yeah.
there's so many, you were talking about it. There's so many dimensions, and you talk to anyone in the industry, and the effect of the short seasons, maybe on one hand breaking that up, but it also leads to a lot of job insecurity because you used to have enough shows to get enough points for your health care in the industry and all that kind of thing. There's some anxiety now just about paychecks, and well, I'm not dying for 26 weeks a year, but now I've only got 10 or 13 episodes worth of work, and I have to work on 2 shows a year, whether you're a writer or you're an electrician. You've got to fill it up where you used to get by. So there's changes and all that, but the nature of the beast is still the same, and it's a special kind of, and it's messed up a lot of people as much as it's. Anyway, it's a lot like, nobody's shooting at each other usually, but it's a lot like that comradeship we were talking about with the Band of Brothers feeling. Very much so. When you go through the trenches, it's different trenches, but you're definitely going through the trenches with people.
I just want to speak to Cairo, who says somehow the topic is getting depressing, showing me how disconnected I am and that I don't have friends that even come close to getting to something like that. And Cairo, what I want to say here is, this is a very hard time to be connected, and it's an extremely difficult time if you already were feeling disconnected. And to anyone who's watching and is feeling that way, I want you to know that you are a part of this community. And Cairo, you have been a part of this community really since the beginning. You always make me laugh with some of your comments. And for a long time, you were our soul. You're holding the life support flag in Twitch, and the only one who's doing so. We so appreciate you being here with us every week, as we do with everyone here.
Yeah.
This is why. This is one of the reasons why we wanted to do this topic, Larry. This show is a big part of our mental health as much as it is for the whole community. And where Discovery ended this week is a moment of connection. And throughout this horrible past year we have had, and how difficult it's been to be connected, this has been a constant source of connection for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to. It's 2 things. It's been this right now. We had, last week was the first show of the new year and all of that. But this period right now, it's a new year. People made a lot of hay out of 2020. I've seen a lot of memes this week with some of the events. People, as if they're not already. People doing memes like, 2021, 2021, 2020 says, I'm a horrible year, and 2021 says, hold my beer. Or 2021 is really 2020, version 2 or whatever. Like, for everyone looking for a panacea to turn one page and everything get bright and shiny again, no, it gets worse. But it's a pivot time. It really is. I mean, this fresh Star Trek is ending. That's one level. The calendar, all the hopes and dreams people have for 2020, here in the United States anyway, culturally, politically, it's been a shit show. But we also had a huge, whatever your politics are, you have to agree that it was a huge game-changing election runoff for 2 Senate seats in Georgia that otherwise would have just been this sidebar story, but winds up being in the driver's seat of a lot of potential for the future right now. So, I mean, it's right now we're just in such a fluxy crossroads time, and us coming out of Fresh Trek every week into a new thing. Yeah, that's why I'm enjoying the idea of it was a great idea to do it. It was his idea, guys, for the watch along next week already. It makes perfect sense. But there's a lot of transition happening and change, and I'm thinking mainly for the dark to the light. It just sometimes we have slow sunrises. But yes, this last year, virtual's been a lifeline. The communities and Cairo, otherwise known as Robert, has been one of my earliest portales, and he's been in the Portal 47 community and one of my Europeans there. So I've known him for longer than you have, and it's great to see his face there, and be a supporter there too. But this is this and my Tuesday audience live, and my portales you don't think about it. And I also think about like serving, like I have things that I do like this for just community building and brand building, and I have my companies that actually there's money involved, but both ways. I think about it being point to point service or something, and I forget about the two-way street of community and the whole sidebar of community that grows up. You throw the rock in the pond, which that sounds destructive. I don't mean for that to happen, but you set that butterfly's wings in motion, and you don't know, hopefully the good effects that happens, the good ripples. And we've certainly had a lot of ripples from this group, from our humble start as, oh, let's not let this idea die. Let's do this now while everybody's running around with their hair on fire in this pandemic. Let's just see what happens. And to see all the love, and this week especially, I saw so many people. I saw new people I'd not seen in the live show who I think are just watching us later. Shout out to everybody who's listening later and on the podcast. You should come to the live if you haven't. But I saw people that I didn't recognize this week on Twitter saying, I am so looking forward this week to Life Support Life, which is very gratifying and amazing too. So yay for everybody, and yay for all of this, because it certainly kept me fresh. If I didn't have any of my live interactions, I don't know what I would have done this year through this magic box. So
yeah, I think I mentioned this on the show before. This is Star Trek has meant so much to me, and it's what led me to psychology.
Mm-hmm.
It's been one of the most positive influences in my life. And before we did Life Support Live, it wasn't a weekly regular part of my social life by any means. And Life Support Live has sort of made it a regular ritual that I can look forward to. Sometimes
You've
to
done
my
a lot of film work. You've done a ton of video and YouTube work, but you hadn't done anything live.
No, and I'd never done anything live, so I've learned a lot from it. And sometimes this is to the detriment of my family of origin here, and family of marriage. However, it's important.
Family of marriage, is that a new term? FOM? Like,
well, my wife and
origin,
she's not my
family
family. She's not my family of origin, but I guess it's in how we define family. But what was I going to say? It gets back to what Scotty says to Kirk in Star Trek. I'm quoting Star Trek Generations, and I'm not quoting the quote I always quote. But Kirk turns to Scotty and says, when did Sulu find time to have a family? And Scotty says, if something's important, you make the time, Admiral. Is he back to Admiral, or is he he's still Captain? He's still Captain. Yeah. And this is important. As Pike says in 2009 Star Trek, it's important. Peacekeeping Armada, it's important. And Life Support Live has very much been a big source of peace for me in this pandemic. So I'm here with you, Larry, and with all of you here in our community.
Yeah. By the way, guys, yes, the podcast is up, so please share that around. But just share. We're on YouTube too. Some people gravitate to YouTube. Some people, the idea of a 2-hour video is very daunting to some people. So the podcast is hopefully going to alleviate people who are used to listening to audio on their commutes, if they still have a commute.
And one way you can really help us with that, folks, whatever your podcast platform is of choice, if you could go in and give us a star rating or a review, or both, that'll really help. Where over the next few weeks, we're going to be catching up and getting almost 40 episodes up on the podcast. We want to help people to discover the show, and something that would really boost that in all of the podcast algorithms is if there are positive reviews and 5-star ratings. That'll really help us a lot. Some of you have already left us review. We got a really positive review, and we have some high star ratings. But if you could just take a moment to do that, that would really help us out a lot. And we'll have more of those episodes coming as fast as we can put them there. And thank you again for Scott for editing those episodes, and to Jared and Scott for moderating the show. Larry, it's that time again. If anyone does come up with lyrics for the intro and outro theme,
I saw
maybe Larry and I might find a way to sing that. But it is that time.
Or bribe to not sing it.
Or bribe, yeah. Larry, where can people find more of you this week?
At Larry Nemecek on Twitter. Same place if you're on YouTube right now, same handle. And if you're on Facebook, at Larry Nemecek's Trekland on Facebook and Instagram. But LarryNemecek.com is my hub. And can you throw up, I know we've got a few seconds left. Can you throw up the third thing I sent for K3?
Yes.
We're kind of through all the holiday stuff. I wanted to throw this up again. I mentioned it. I mentioned it in Portal 47. So Michael Braveheart was the nurse you saw all the time who never talked with Dr. Crusher. He's got a fairly modest $3,000 GoFundMe, totally for medical work. He was totally self-sufficient and had some heart issues and things. And I'm just throwing that up there. If you can help him out, he's going to be a guest on Portal 47 here in a couple of months. But I wanted to help get that out to the community, the Star Trek community. So if you can, it's a GoFundMe for medical. You can read his page. It's under Friends of Michael Braveheart, as you can say there. Anyway, I'm trying to get the word out on that. I'm going to blog a little more about it too. But he's not somebody that has a big fan base or anything. And I think a lot of people who were TNG fans who saw him every week, just about. He was in the opening scene of Tapestry. I tried to point it out as it flew by when we watched Tapestry, when the sickbay emergency scene was going by. Anyway, but thank you. I just wanted to put that out there, everybody. And for me, myself again, thanks. And check out everything in my realm and in Trekland. And we'll see. We had some people come over. Had some new folks come into the portal here in the last couple of weeks. So with all of our holiday things. So from this community. So it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, folks, I am at Ollie Mattu on social. You can check out The Psych Show on YouTube. And please let us know in the comments, what do you want us to watch next week? We got an idea.
Check out the Facebook page over there.
We're gonna put a poll up in the next few days, but we'd like your ideas, so let us know in the comments what you'd like to see. We're gonna have a lot of fun next week, and then after that, it's a whole new era of
we'll have no more fun.
No, yeah, that's the last time. Yeah, folks, it's been a pleasure, and I hope you have a good week. Until next time, live long and prosper.
Absolutely. Trek well, everybody.
You do.